This baby can understand his parents' conversations right after birth. He can tell when his mother is changing his wet diaper, and he secretly watches his father fight monsters every day to learn combat techniques. His name is Arthur, and he starts escaping from his crib when he's only a few months old. He knows how to avoid his busy mother when she's doing housework and sneaks over to the bookshelf to read magic books that are bigger than he is. Most people awaken their magic talent around the age of 20. Arthur, who cannot yet speak or walk, somehow learns magic at an incredible speed and accidentally blows up his own house. By the time his parents find him, Arthur is already floating in the air using magic. This is only the beginning. In his very first battle, Arthur breaks his father's weapon, displaying power far beyond his age. His parents, both adventurers, are utterly shocked. By the time Arthur turns 4, he can already match strength with fighters and race against assassins. Even when surrounded by hundreds of enemies, Arthur manages to take down the mage to die with him in a desperate life-or-death situation. To uncover the secret behind this extraordinary child, we have to look back at his life before he was reincarnated. Arthur once lived in a world without magic, where only advanced technology existed. Born as an orphan at the very bottom of society, Arthur relied on his strength and intelligence to rise through endless battles. With blood-stained hands and an iron will, he ultimately reached the pinnacle of power and became the strongest king in his world. Arthur's later years were filled with suffering. He lived each day on edge, constantly guarding against assassination attempts from his enemies. In many ways, death felt more like a release than a tragedy. After death, Arthur was reincarnated into a completely different world. Now in the body of a newborn baby, he initially thought he was dreaming. That changed when something else captured his attention. Both of his parents were able to use magic, a mysterious power that is completely absent in his previous life. In this new world, monsters and adventurers roam freely. Some of the strongest fighters possess power that rivals that of fighter jets. Arthur feels a long-lost sense of joy stirring within him. It is a mix of excitement for the unknown and the warmth of family. In his previous life, Arthur was trapped in a cycle of bloodshed and betrayal with no one he could truly trust. Now everything is different. He has a father named Reynolds and a mother named Alice who love him deeply and unconditionally. Arthur cherishes this brand new life. While other babies are busy wetting their diapers, he works hard to control his bladder and uses every moment to read and learn about the new world. The continent is home to 3 main races: humans, elves, and dwarves. They rely on the power of magic and progress slowly, with no existence of technological weapons. The professions of magic mainly falls into 2 categories. One is sorcerers like Alice, who summon various elements for offense and support. The other is warriors like Reynolds, who use magic to enhance their bodies for combat. As the strongest king in his previous life, Arthur possesses an extensive reserve of knowledge. Supernatural powers also existed in his former world, though they are much weaker than magic. Arthur works hard to organize the knowledge from both worlds, seizing every opportunity to gather information about warriors and sorcerers. Whenever this happens, his parents always interrupt his studies. They prefer that Arthur grow up more slowly and spend more time with them. In his previous life, Arthur grew up in an orphanage, where family love feels like a luxury. It seems God sensed his longing for affection and granted him the greatest compensation in this life. Surrounded by his parents' love and care, Arthur gradually grows up. The former strongest king has now become a child who knows how to act spoiled. By sulking, Arthur earns the chance to read magic books, awakening the magic within his body more than 10 years earlier than ordinary people. Reynolds and Alice look at the accidentally destroyed house and their child floating in midair. Their first reaction isn't shock or pride, but relief that Arthur is safe. Alice's tears fall onto Arthur's face, and in that moment, Arthur begins to cry uncontrollably as well. He can resist all kinds of emotions, except the warmth of family. However, Arthur doesn't slow down his progress despite being surrounded by love. In his previous life, he witnessed too many weak people being killed without reason. Arthur understands that having loved ones means he must become even stronger to protect them. Reynolds is shocked to discover that Arthur, at only 4 years old, is already terrifyingly strong. During their first training session, Arthur breaks Reynolds' weapon with a single strike. This good news, however, causes a disagreement between Reynolds and Alice. Reynolds wants to send Arthur to train under a powerful mentor, hoping to secure a brighter future for their son. Alice, worried that Arthur is too young to take care of himself, firmly refuses to be separated from him. Sensing the tension at home, Arthur suggests that his parents travel with him. Jasmine, Reynolds and Alice can't bear to part with Arthur, so they immediately accept his suggestion. The couple contacts their former adventurer companions and asks them to escort the whole family to a distant city. The team has a well-balanced composition, covering nearly every profession. All the adventurers warmly welcome Arthur except for one, the silent assassin. Jasmine, The journey that follows allows Arthur to see a much wider world. In his previous life, he always traveled by high-speed airships. Now, although the carriage moves much more slowly, it gives Arthur the chance to enjoy the scenery along the way. It turns out that Reynolds and Alice's caution is very necessary. On the first day of their journey, they are attacked by monsters. Fortunately, the adventurer team works together with great coordination, and the monsters are not very strong. After just 3 rounds of combat, the low-level monsters are all defeated and become dinner for the group. This journey also teaches Arthur something important. Alice is a healer, which is extremely rare in this world. She must not reveal her abilities in front of strangers easily, or she might be taken by powerful organizations. The reason she hides away in the countryside is to avoid getting involved in these conflicts. After dinner, Adam, the warrior in the group, invites Arthur to a fighting practice, except for Reynolds and Alice. Everyone is shocked by Arthur's talent for combat. Jasmine in particular is drawn to some of Arthur's fighting techniques. She begins to follow him around, wanting to study him more closely. From that day on, Arthur begins receiving guidance from the older members of the group. From swordsmanship to battlefield movement, his skills start improving in every aspect. On his birthday, Jasmine gives him a short dagger as a gift. A cord is tied to the handle, allowing Arthur to attach one end to himself and throw the dagger for long-range attacks. No one could have imagined that just a few hours later, Arthur would fight with all his might and this new weapon. Just as they are about to set off again, Arthur notices that Alice wants to vomit. He recalls how his mother hasn't had much of an appetite during the journey, and Arthur can't help but feel a bit worried. Soon something far more worrying happens. They are surrounded by a group of bandits who only want the women and children and plan to kill all the men. In terms of individual combat ability, Arthur's group is actually stronger. Unfortunately, the sheer number of enemies is overwhelming, as if no matter how many they defeat, more enemies just keep coming. The main group faces a deadly problem. The continuous fighting drains their stamina rapidly, and there is no way they can last long enough to defeat all the bandits. To make matters worse, the bandit leader joins the battle at this critical moment. Reynolds refuses help from Arthur and Alice. What he says next shocks Arthur deeply. Alice is pregnant, and Arthur has the responsibility to take her and the baby in her belly to escape. Only then does Arthur finally understand why Alice has constantly felt like vomiting during the journey. Reynolds leaves the chance of survival to the 3 people he loves most, throwing himself fully into holding off the bandit leader. Jasmine and the others also help take down part of the bandit group. Arthur does not waste any time. He grabs Alice's hand and tries to escape. At that moment, a mage among the bandits launches a sneak attack. Arthur pushes Alice out of harm's way and falls off the cliff himself. In his final moment, Arthur throws the short dagger Jasmine gave him. Using the rope tied to the handle, he entangles the mage and drags him down the cliff together. In that moment, Arthur's world seems to go completely silent. He can no longer hear his mother's cries, and tears begin to fall from the corners of his eyes. He does not fear death, but his only regret is parting with the parents who love him so deeply. He longs to hold on to this hard-won happiness, and he still wants to introduce himself to the child who has not yet been born. When Arthur regains consciousness, he has no idea why he is inside a mysterious cave. In front of him stands a giant creature. Arthur tries to attack, but she effortlessly knocks him aside. Fortunately, the giant creature does not seem hostile. She brings him a large pile of fruit and insists that he eat his fill before asking her any questions. As Arthur eats, he begins asking questions and learns that the giant creature is named Sylvia. She brings him good news that Arthur's parents have safely escaped. Overwhelmed with emotion, Arthur begins to cry once again and sincerely thanks Sylvia from the bottom of his heart. Sylvia tells Arthur that she cannot leave the cave and can only use magic to observe the outside world. The area nearby is filled with monsters and bandits, so she needs some time to prepare a teleportation spell for Arthur. Besides this, she does not say anything else, and her identity remains a complete mystery. Sylvia shows Arthur a powerful ability. She is able to cast magic while gathering mana at the same time. This means her ability will be greatly enhanced if she fights continuously. Arthur immediately says he wants to learn it so he can use it to kill all his enemies. Sylvia flicks Arthur away without hesitation. She is not satisfied with his answer. Under Sylvia's guidance, Arthur gradually gains a new understanding. In his previous life, although he was a king, the actual operation of the country was managed by the council. Arthur was more like a general, responsible for military campaigns. Later, he grew tired of everything and chose to abdicate. Now Arthur understands why he fights. Power should be a tool used to protect the ones he loves when necessary, not a weapon for venting anger and hatred. Sylvia appreciates Arthur's insight and begins guiding him as her disciple. Meanwhile, a giant creature that looks very similar to Sylvia has just slain a dragon. Sensing the enemy's approach, Sylvia immediately hides Arthur behind a pile of rocks and warns him to stay silent. Soon, the giant creature bursts into the cave and launches an attack. Sylvia releases her seal and begins fighting with her full power in her dragon form. Unfortunately, the enemy proves to be even stronger and soon discovers Arthur's presence. Sylvia activates her most powerful ability, Time Stop. She hands Arthur a dragon egg and a feather, then marks his arm with a strange tattoo. In the final moments of her life, Sylvia unexpectedly calls out Arthur's name from his previous life. She hopes that this man, given a second chance, will no longer be ruled by negative emotions or live a life shrouded in darkness. Arthur has many questions he wants to ask, but unfortunately, Sylvia has no time left. Arthur must leave now. Not everyone is as kind as Sylvia. When her time stop spell ends, the enemy launches a fierce assault. Using the last of her strength, Sylvia detonates the entire cave. At this moment, Arthur's face is covered in tears as he is teleported away. Suddenly, he hears a girl scream and is forced to turn his sorrow into vigilance. That concludes the recap of episodes 1 to 3. This is my favorite one among the Isekai anime this season. The main character is not a banished powerhouse or a clueless fool. In his previous life, he was a tyrant, but through the love of his parents and the influence of Sylvia, he begins a new life. The development of his personality is rich and nuanced, and the emotional portrayal is delicate and sincere. Also, the suspense is especially well crafted. What is the connection between Sylvia and Arthur's reincarnation? What is the mysterious creature that attacks Sylvia? And what is the meaning behind the scream heard in the forest? Alright, that's it for today's anime recap. If you want to know what happens next in this story, leave a comment saying continue. I'll decide whether to cover the following episodes based on your comments. If you also enjoy fantasy anime like this, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. I might pick them for future recaps. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next episode.